Hi, welcome to the horrible misery that is my second channel. So if you guys have noticed the theme with this channel, most of it is going to consist of reviewing unconventional things that I can't really review on my main channel because my main channel is a Nerf channel and it can't really contain all of the goofy hobbies that I also enjoy. And that gave me a beautiful idea that's never been seen before. Why not dabble in the art of totally not watered down, totally not corporate crap holes of channels that is toy reviews. I mean, if I've learned anything from YouTube, it's that Ryan's World has somehow convinced the entire world that torturing your kid for 13 years in front of a frickin' camera has no effect on anyone's mental health. But regardless of all that, I'm not gonna get into it. I have one question for you. You can see my crappy set in the reflection of my even crappier TV. This is a catastrophe. What is a combination of the coolest things that you can possibly think of? Kid logic. Let's think about cool things. I mean, I don't know. I mean, tanks are really cool because they're basically mobile fortresses that have a giant gun on them. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Tanks are pretty cool. We're going to leave tanks as if it was a physical object and push it to the side. Think about more cool things. Alright, well, on the subject of fortresses and stuff, what about space stations? I mean, space stations are a pretty cool idea. Basically having a mobile ecosystem that's floating in the cosmos anywhere other than this godforsaken planet. Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea too. So we're gonna take that idea and push it to the other side and keep thinking about cool things. Keep thinking! Okay, what about a launch pad? A spaceship docking station and launch pad. Since we're on the same topic of space, let's just build that into our space station. I mean, that's a really cool idea too. Brilliant! Brilliant! More cool things. I mean, I don't know. What about things that can contain so many guns that you don't know what to do with your life? Literally so much firepower that it basically take the space station and put more guns on it. More guns! Yes! More ideas. Push that over there. Come on, more, damn it, more! What about a garage built into the thing? What about just garages that have infinite customizable parts so you can put your car in and you can put stuff on it all over the place? You got me! Come on! One more thing! One more thing and you're good to go. What about a toy that actually does stuff when put into close proximity with other toys from the same line? That is perfect. You've got the ultimate concoction of cool stuff over here. I mean, alrighty. So, what was the point in all that? Why did you just ask me to do all that stuff? I don't understand what any of these things have to do with each other. May I present the Imaginext Battle Rover? This is one of the most gargantuan pieces of plastic garbage I own. And yes, it does every single thing that I just described a minute ago. You thought that I was joking. This does all of it. All of it! And unlike pretty much everything else that will fit into this do-everything category, this doesn't suck at any of them. This is a kind of toy that I would put into the you only get to ask for one thing for Christmas and you simultaneously want every single thing that is coming out this year, but you don't have the ability to ask your parents or Santa Claus for that, so you have to settle on one thing. What do you settle on? This would be the one thing to settle on. And there's a big difference with this that pretty much every other one I can think of like this that fits into the same style of category fails at. They all accomplish one thing really, really good, usually the main selling feature that you see in the commercial, and pretty much everything else is cheaped out or lackluster or just doesn't offer the same emotional response as the big thing that it is designed to do. And in this case, it's very obviously the large size and intimidating stature, and the fact that you can pretty much use this thing like a plastic battering ram. This is going to be a long video because this thing does so much stuff and there's so much to go over, and I refuse to just gloss over anything. I want you guys to understand how good of a product this was. What? You're in the wrong channel. What are you doing here? You know. So this is the Imaginext Battle Rover. It came out in 2014 under Imaginext Space Series, which was recently renovated when this came out, and this was the big flagship item in that new renovated series. The Imaginext Space line actually goes all the way back to like the late 90s, but that's a completely different video if you guys want to see that. But all you guys really need to know is that this cost $120 retail, and nowadays a new one will run you back $400 to $500. And that's for an extremely depressing reason, which I will get into later. But for right now, I really quickly need to express just how large this vehicle is. So for comparison, here's my RC Tesla Cybertruck right next to it that I reviewed just a couple weeks ago. Yeah, that's how big the Battle Rover is. The Cybertruck is already a very large toy vehicle, and it could fit inside of this thing 4 times over. It's so big that we genuinely didn't know what to do with it when I got it on Christmas. We had to experiment for about 2 weeks to figure out where to put the thing. And that might just be a red flag for you guys just as much as it is for me, because usually when a product is that cheap, $120 remind you, and you're getting this much volume of stuff, it's usually really, really crappy. Hell no. No. This thing is dense. It is dense with stuff. This thing is made out of stuff, and I don't mean like the absolute bare minimum of stuff to just get past the safety requirements. I mean, I have thrown this vehicle down the stairs well over 50 times over the course of owning it, and the only thing I have to show of that is this tiny little dent when this part right here accidentally clipped an exposed nail that was sticking out of the wall because we were renovating. That's it right there. This thing has taken a beating more than any of my Nerf blasters. The thing's even starred in my Tessera Plus channel a couple times, and every single time it shows up, you betcha it's gonna take a fall down the stairs. Watch. You! So, like, I still don't really know how to do a review on something like this, because this is a very unconventional review. So, like the last 2 things I reviewed on this channel, we're going to treat it just like a Nerf Blaster review, and start with the design. Just take it all in. In my personal opinion, this is how you future-proof a design of a kid's toy. This is so good-looking. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what, this thing looks slamming. This is a magnificent design. Absolutely magnificent. And the reason why I think that is because this is one of the few cases, the fewest of few cases, where something like this perfectly rides the fine line between being something that looks really, really good that you can take really, really seriously, and being a very playful, energetic, and overall friendly kids' toy style of appeal. This fills both of those niches fluidly. It's got everything that you would want out of a kid's toy. It's got bright blue, bright orange, bright red, bright neon green for some reason. It's got translucent blue up here. It's got other random colors like the translucent red over here, big red goofy looking hubcaps to the center of the wheels, giant comical AstroTurf looking wheels. The shape of this thing is absolutely ridiculous. It's got this big front end and this even bigger back end with a freaking spaceship on top of it. It's physically impossible to get from here to here without going all the way over here and climbing a ladder, which is actually how you're supposed to do it with the playset. But regardless, the whole thing is designed like a kid's toy, but it's designed like a kid's toy that you can still take seriously. Like, look at the way that all of these straight lines match up with each other, and all these little design details flow together in a very beautiful and organic way. It doesn't look like big, rounded, overly childlike, goofy mishmash. It actually looks amazing in person. Tiny little details that you would entirely miss as a kid, like these little bumps around here, which just give it a little bit more texture and make it look like bolts on the sides of the vehicle. Actual little bolts that are all over the fenders of this thing. This tiny hexagonal pattern that is all over the inside of the wheels and is copied on the outsides of the tires. It's fantastic! It's a design that you can very much really look at and just your eyes get big and you immediately want it for Christmas as a kid, but as an adult, you can still enjoy it just as much for a completely different reason. And that is how to make a perfect design in my book. Hi, it's daytime outside now. It's the next day, which is why today I'm going to be explaining all of the things that this thing can do, starting with the large obvious things and then working our way down into the depths of obscurity where nobody remembers anything. Starting with the most obvious feature that you notice from a mile away, the big wheels. There are 6 of them and they are massive. They're so big that you can hide your fist in them. And this was an inclusion that concerned a lot of people because usually when you have something already with this much stuff going on that is this big and this heavy and you try and make it roll, it doesn't go very well, mainly when it's built in. I mean, you can put anything on a cart and wheel it around, but this is a feature that's built into the thing, and I was concerned about it. A lot of people were concerned about it. A lot of people were thinking, oh, it's gonna drag across the ground, it's not gonna work very well. No, it is very, very fluid in its motion, and it carries its momentum extremely well, to the point where if you push the thing and let go and just let it roll, it will actually roll for quite a while until it finally comes to a stop. The wheels are designed interestingly, with the outer wheels like on the front and the back sticking out a little bit further than the ones in the middle, and I'm not quite sure why they did this, but there is a noticeable gap in the middle wheels. It might have to do with the shape of this kind of fortress top base thing, because otherwise the wheel would be sticking out further and it would be very noticeable, and without a fender covering it, I mean, if you drop somebody in there, that's gonna be a horrifying casualty, but it's still sticking out regardless, so that idea just kind of goes out the window now, doesn't it? It isn't perfect. I mean, there are 2 large issues that I can think of with the wheel design here, and the first has to do with ground clearance. Yes, this thing is big, and it sits very high up when you actually look up here, but if you look underneath it, oh look, that's the axle thing. I cannot stick 4 fingers under it. Like, it is tight. There is not much ground clearance considering the size of this truck. The fact that there's not that much ground clearance means that you really can't drive this thing over that many kind of all-terrain things. And really, this does look like you should be able to play with it like an all-terrain toy, which is how they describe it in the commercial. I mean, granted, the commercial's a commercial and the commercial was on a set. And it just gets even more disappointing because when you look at it from the side, it looks like you got a ton of ground clearance. I mean, like, it goes all the way up to the base. That is what I would expect most of the underside of this truck to look like. But as soon as you look over there, oh no, what is that? Oh no, what is that? And I understand, these have to be attached to an axle, otherwise they would just fall off. But the axle could be mounted at an angle at least. I mean, there's no reason that that should be a completely straight line that inhibits your ability to roll the thing properly. Come on, camera, focus, damn it! And the unfortunate part is because they designed it this way, and there's really nothing you can do about it. You could fix the middle axle very easily. I mean, you could easily just replace that, but the front and back, you really can't do anything about. The front of it has this ramp that goes down, so you can't improve the ground clearance there without getting rid of a massive play feature and completely reshaping the entire shell. And the back of it has this humongous tub, which also gets rid of all the ground clearance. Granted, I think that the tub is well worth it, but regardless, we'll get into that in just a minute. And the other issue has to do with the design of the wheels themselves. They are vacuum formed, which means that it's just a single mold that is pressed in and then dealt with later. And I mean, that's fine because it means that the back of the wheels are hollow, but you're not gonna be looking at the back of the wheels much. Except you are, because in a lot of angles you can very, very easily see the back of the wheels over there, and it just breaks the immersion. Like, there's this giant hole over here that's full of spider webs. What has been going on? There's an entire ecosystem living in this thing. What? Even from the front view, you have all this detail on the outsides of the wheels, and on the inside, it's just a flat wall. It actually looks like headphones, and it very clearly looks like headphones. These kind of praying mantis arm things do help to hide the insides of the wheels from the main view, but even still, you can pretty easily see past them, and oh, you can see the darkness in there. I do appreciate the fact that they have this trying to block it a little bit, which does help the immersion a little bit, but still. And then to actually push this thing around, you might not see it just yet, but they've actually built in a pair of shopping cart style handles into this thing. These right here are basically shopping cart handles, and I can still very easily get my whole hand around them and grip them pretty tightly, even with my giant oversized hands. Considering this is made for like 3 to 4 year olds, it still has just the right amount of space for my hands to fit in there, and they've got a ton of clearance in there. So even if you have bigger hands, you can still hold this comfortably. I say comfortably, the bottom of it is vacuum formed, so it's gonna be kind of rough, but I mean, you don't have to put pressure on this. You can just kind of rest your hand on it and push it back and forth, and it works just fine. I really, really like how they future-proofed this so any adult can enjoy this just as much as a little kid. I'm gonna be saying that a few times because I really do mean it. And this is another example of really, really good design. These look like electronic tubing that is just going from one side to another, and you don't have to notice the shopping cart handles until you want to. And then when you're done, you can easily forget that they're even there and just go back to playing with this like it's a toy and not like it's a toy car. I love stuff like that. They did it so well. What they didn't do so well is this in the center. This is the control panel. And you got 3 buttons up here, and this is what a lot of people were really interested in. Because theoretically, this could have 7 different commands that you can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that is a really cool idea, being able to do different things with 3 buttons. Basically, teaching the idea of commands to really, really little kids and still having things that you can just do just to have fun with it. The problem is they didn't do that at all. There are only 4 commands. 4. That's it. If you press the green button, it kind of revs the engine, and half the time it's going to stall out, so you have to press it again and then it turns the engine on. This one makes the horn honk? I don't know what it is. I'll let you guys hear for yourself in just a minute. And this thing is supposed to run an alien diagnostic scan, which can be interrupted by pressing it again. The 4th command is if you hold this thing after the horn honks, it plays like a patriotic fanfare that lights up the whole vehicle at once.
Try it again. It needs more power. Run scan. Did you see something?
I do like how you're able to change what is going on with these things while something is happening by pressing a different button, but again, that only happens for very, very specific cases. If you have the scan thing going, by pressing it again, it resets. By pressing the yellow button, it interrupts the scan. If you are revving the vehicle and you hit the yellow or the red button, it turns it off and just says, all systems go. I don't understand why it does that. They could have very easily made it say something else that's specific to that specific command, but again, there's a lot of wasted potential with the control panel because it registers holding buttons down, so that increases the amount of stuff that you could even do by 2. The other biggest, most obvious feature is this thing that is on the top. It really blends in very well with the shell, and you could pretty easily forget that that is a spaceship, and it can come off, and you just have this thing that just... It's so perfect. It looks so good when you put that on there. But the idea is that if you twist this, it deploys. Very, very loudly. Like really loud. Really loud. And if you don't do anything for a while, it starts yelling at you to actually get the thing to take off. Because, Houston, why do we have this spaceship sitting all the way up there and you're not even going to launch the damn thing? Launch it! It just doesn't for you. It doesn't want you to just sit there. Okay, lift off. I will get into the spaceship itself later, but all you really need to worry about is this kind of little funnel thing right here that very easily guides it into place and gets it to sit there. I don't like how this goes back down because, well, it stops. Every time you let go of it.
Launchpad secure.
It goes up automatically, but it goes down manually. I don't understand that either. On the left side of the ship, there's this orange and purple apparatus, which looks like a form of power cell. Shut up. It looks like a form of power cell battery thing that can turn for whatever reason. And I like the way that this looks. The idea of it just being like a battery cell that is sitting exposed on the ship for like a weak point for things to hit and blow up to potentially weaken the thing. But that's not what it is. It's equally hilarious, and it's a lot more hilarious, honestly. It's a space jail, so you can put aliens. And if you don't feel like dealing with him on the ship anymore, you can flush him down the toilet. Don't believe me? This is an actual sound effect the thing makes. It also has a 50% chance of making this noise, which is a lot less goofy and a lot more kind of efficient, I guess. But nevertheless, I really like that play feature. You don't even notice that it's there until you turn this thing just to see what it does, and you realize one of your space guys just got away, which, let's say you're a kid and you're just playing around with this thing and you're having an adventure and still trying to figure it out. Suddenly a new story has started where this guy's running away to go and tell his friends about you, and you gotta go and stop him. I am a very imaginative person, shut up! You guys may have noticed the little red buggy vehicle thing that is sitting in the middle of this car, which it is just like a little buggy, and I love the way that this is designed with the big goofy wheels that actually really mimics the original Mars Rover pretty well, and you got a big space in the middle just to put some guy in there. It sits right in the center there, and you might have also noticed the large orange gate that is on the front of this thing that's just always open for some reason. It's not supposed to be open, it's supposed to be shut like that, but I digress. If you hit this button, it opens and this little notch pushes the car forwards and down the ramp. I love the way that that works. It is very fluid, is very easy to get used to, and it just works really well. The only play feature that I feel like really could have been improved from the start to the final product are the captain's chairs. You can see them in there facing out forwards, but you can turn them around to face backwards, and because they're geared, if you turn one, the other one will turn also. It's a really cool idea to where you can have this guy kind of giving a conference to the rest of the ship, and then you just turn him around, and then he's back in drive mode. The problem is that this gear rack can lift, and you can very easily ungear them and then get them geared incorrectly so that they'll be sitting at an angle and not line up properly, and then you gotta fiddle with it to get it back into the correct orientation. It happens a lot more than you would expect it to happen, because if you put any pressure on this, the gear in the back is being lifted up, and there you go. Now he's misaligned, and now you've really screwed up, and you gotta figure out how to fix it. And you might be thinking, I'm just not going to put any pressure on the chairs, but you have to sit the guys in it because they are secured by the handles, which you have to push down on, which lifts the gear. I can't express how often this is a problem that I have to put up with, and I've always had to do it even when I first got this thing. It's just always been an issue, and I've always been annoyed by it. I do really like the idea of gearing the chairs, but I feel like they should have secured the gears down a whole lot better. That's not a thing that's going to break. If it's gonna break, it's gonna break anyway, but at least if it's secure, then this won't be a problem that you have to fiddle with so much, and it is very, very fiddly indeed. On the right side of the ship, on the opposite side of the power cell space jail thing, you've got this crane arm looking thing with a captain's seat in it. So you can take a guy, you can shove him in there, and you can call it a day. There's nothing for him to sit on. Just put in there, ignore it, shut up. You take this, you open it up, you can move it over here, you can swing it down, and awkwardly stab at things because it's basically impossible to grab anything with it. Like, literally, it's not possible because of the way that this hook is designed. This could have been done so much better. I do really like the idea of having a thing that can just kind of analog move things down and move things up onto and off of the ship without flushing them, you know? And then you have like a space to put it where it's out of the way and it's secure enough to hold it unless you violently bump into this thing and knock it out of alignment, which doesn't happen very often because it's kind of hidden between the front and back panels of the ship. But I feel like it would have just been so much more effective to have another singular linkage where you can like pinch this and there's like a pliers arm cloth thing on the very end of it rather than the hook. The hook is cheaper and the hook definitely looks cool, but it doesn't work. There's really nothing that you can do with it. And I find myself myself using this the least out of all of the features on this ship. You guys might have noticed the big windows that are on the sides of this, which are actually these kind of control chairs that are directly linked up to these cannons on top of them that you can turn with this knob thing on the bottom. This is another thing that just wasn't done too terribly well. It's not done as bad as the hook thing, I don't think, but it could have been better, mainly because of the limitation of plastic. The top is very wobbly. Honestly, the whole thing is pretty wobbly, and this is really, 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 really wobbly. Like, so tremendously wobbly that I often worry about accidentally breaking it and usually don't put anything up here because I don't want to risk damaging this. But what I do think these work really well as is just the chair rotating mech, because it is secure on the bottom and it's relatively secure on the top. So you can just put a guy in there and then turn this to have him look out the window and be doing reconnaissance out of the vehicle without being at risk of being shot by an alien from the side or something like that. Even though you can very easily just shoot through the window. But I digress, it's the thought that counts. I love the way that the window looks integrated into the back of the ship. I think it looks really, really nice, and it just matches very well. It's honestly a very nice aesthetic, and I don't mind how wobbly the top is because the rest of it is done very good. And then if you're wondering what to do with the cannons from that point on, well, you can literally just stick them up here at the front, and they're a lot more secure. And it actually, in my opinion, looks way cooler like that, having two big turret guns sticking out of the front of the vehicle, while the back of it is a lot more streamlined other than the antenna, which you can't really get rid of. And I think this actually works better, because now you don't have to reach the bottom, you can just turn the top to turn the chairs around. Like, really, it does seem like they thought this through a lot more than it actually ended up coming out in the finished product. And again, limitation of plastic. That's really where this part fails. But even then, it doesn't fail as bad as some other things that I have seen, again, trying to be do-everything toys. It's only at this part where I have to be honest and say that they were trying to put way too many things on the actual ship itself. For example, if we look in here, you can see that there are two chairs that are stuffed in there that are kind of just facing the wall, and there's no practical reason to use them, and they're really, really, really hard to access. They are very far in there, like you have to really get a good hold to get somebody in there. The chairs are a lot more tightly designed than these ones, so there's a lot more friction trying to push figures in and pull them out of those, and there's just no reason to use them. You're not going to notice them from any other angle on the ship because that's hidden behind this large mass of plastic, and I just don't understand why it was there. Or if we remove the spaceship, you can see that there's a control panel in there, which is not designed properly. The actual control panel is mounted too closely to the chair. I have had the most amount of luck trying to fit these kind of 2010, 2011 figures in it because they have the shortest legs and can almost fit in the chair properly, but even then, he's not seated all the way, his head is in against the headrest, and he's sitting up and out of the chair facing forwards because his feet are pressing against the control panel. And God forbid you try and use early 2000s or late 90s figures or the 2013 and 14 figures and up because their legs are extended and literally don't fit in this at all. I don't understand why it was designed like this, because they could have so easily moved the chair slightly back or moved the control panel slightly forwards. There's room back there for them to have moved it, but they just designed it like this for the sake of designing it like this, and I cannot understand why. Another unfortunate culprit are these things I mentioned earlier, these kind of praying mantis looking hand apparatus things that are sitting on the front of the ship, which conveniently cover up the gruesome hole of the wheels. The problem is that they are designed very poorly, and very clearly were just kind of an afterthought that they threw in last minute. They're like, oh wait, there's something here. We could probably put something there. Put these things in there. All right, we're good to go. Let's sell the nugget. We're not going to test it at all because that happens. The knob rubs against the wheel, and you can see the problem. You can see all the friction from the knob rubbing against the wheel on this one. The idea is simple. You pull this thing out, and then you have a saw blade that you can articulate that you can just play around with, and on this side you have a drill that you can go straight down into the floor, if you can position it. There we go. Now it's going under the floor, and they look pretty cool. I really like the way that these look. I think they're designed pretty cool. It gives this thing a form of kind of insectoid aesthetic to it, which kind of plays on the sci-fi nature that it's going for, but mainly the saw blade one is just not, it doesn't fit very well. It very easily bends to the side, and they're very loose, like they're very skeletonized on the inside, and they're just not designed very well. One idea that I have always tried is turning them around and stuffing them under the axles like this, which works Moderately well, you can kind of do that, but then it's just a matter of time before it doesn't have that much grip anymore, and bam. Now it's touching the table, and that's gonna drag across the table or drag across the floor no matter what. And it's at this point of the review where I need to make an unfortunate announcement. It's gone! This spaceship is cooked! I put batteries in it, and it just does not turn on. I don't know. It's cooked. I tried turning the switch to the on position and trying it. I turned it to the off position and tried it. Nothing. I'm gonna have to do an autopsy later. I don't know what happened. It was just in there. It was just fine. The batteries weren't corroded or anything. Oh no. It's fine. It's totally fine. We can just pretend like it works. It's supposed to make liftoff noises when this comes up, and there's lights in here that are supposed to turn on going forwards, and you can load this thing with discs, and when you hit this thing, it will kind of shotgun off 4 discs at once and then make a loud noise when it does it. And you can put a guy in it. And that's what the spaceship does. There you go. For substitute, we're going to be using this spaceship from the same line because I know it's compatible. And luckily I got a full set of these things when this line came out. So we're safe for now. And I know this one works. But we're not going to be reviewing this today. We're going to be reviewing this. So we're going to push this over here for a second until we get to the actual thing that this has to do with. Which, speaking of which, it's time to turn it on and hear what this lady has to say. Oh, I love that startup sound. It sounds like an old Windows computer. One thing that you're quickly gonna notice is that this thing has idle animations, which consists of the lights turning on and off and random noises being made that are kind of generic technology sounds. And sometimes the thing asks if anybody's there right before it turns off. It says, Houston, do you read me? Okay, nope, screw you. We're turning off. We're shutting all the systems down. We're not going to listen to you anymore. You have to do something in order to turn me on. If somebody asks for something, we're not going to respond. Hey, you gotta press a button. And I do think that it's funny that it kind of has a power off sequence when it goes into sleep mode or whatever you want to call it, which basically is the same thing as turning the thing off. I've never lost any battery current any more than just turning the thing off when it goes into sleep mode, so that's a nice touch. And at this point I have to point out like the one thing that really does concern me with this, and that is the fact that there's the dynamic driver right there. There is no padding or anything between it and the speaker grill. So if you stick like a screwdriver in there or a knife or something, you can cook the speaker just like that. There you go. So why did I turn the thing on and have it berating me constantly while making this video? Well, it's simple. You guys see this right here? This is an infrared sensor. Why does it have an infrared sensor? Well, this thing has another infrared sensor. And it just so happens, when I push this button, this one's supposed to have it as well. If I am aiming it at the infrared sensor, this happens. Please tell me it works. There we go. It reacts as if you actually shot the thing and starts having a catastrophic malfunction.
Switching to battle mode.
And if you do it again, it gets even worse. And this continues multiple times. And each time you shoot it, it gets more and more panicked. Until that happens. You've killed it.
Boy, that's not good.
Yep, it's gone. It's cooked. You have destroyed the space station. That is the coolest thing I've ever seen on any toy
Battery backup.
in my entire life. And then it just restarts. And it plays the same noise that when you first turned it on. It's like they thought of everything. The control panel actually does something.
Battle mode.
It turns an alarm off. And the alarm stays on for a few minutes, but you can interrupt it by hitting the button again.
Red alert.
And there's so much that you can do when it's just, shut up! Shut up! Oh my god! Shut up! I don't actually remember how to turn it on. Okay, we did it. Shut up! Needless to say, if this thing gets shot, it's a catastrophic malfunction and you have to fix it before it's too late, because if it gets hit 3 times, it's gone. And this is actually kind of designed like a game, to where when it gets hit, there's a grace period where you can't shoot it anymore, which would theoretically give a little kid some time to get over here and try and fiddle with the controls to restart the station before their imbecile brother comes back with the spaceship to shoot it again. It's really fun and very engaging and really cool and just entertaining, to say the least. And in this specific reboot line of the Imaginext space series, it consisted of a lot of different spaceships like this. There was also one it came with. There were alien ships, there were alien pods and stuff that could fly around, and every single one of them has one of these sensors on it, which means that no matter what you have, even if you just have the set itself with this, you could have some guy betray the team and shoot this thing and blow it up and just ruin your entire day. I love the fact that this is so compatible with everything else. And if something doesn't have one of these, it's got something like this that is reactive. And the only other thing that I can really think to talk about here is the sound quality, because you have the dynamic driver in there, and the sound is really good. I love the way that this thing sounds. It's got bass to it, which you wouldn't expect out of something like this. I mean, think about the amount of stuff that this already does, and the inclusion of an actually good speaker that actually doesn't sound like trash. I mean, usually these things are just like... That's what these toy speakers sound like, and that's what the spaceship sounds like. Shame on you. But the actual vehicle has a nice speaker in it that emits the noises that it's supposed to make really well, and it really flows through the room nicely. It doesn't sound irritating to the ears, and that, I think, is a very, very big deal, because bad speakers would have driven me away as a kid and would have driven a lot of kids away because, oh, it hurts my ears, I don't want to listen to it. But this thing sounds wonderful, and my mom never got annoyed by it, my dad never got annoyed by it, nobody that I knew ever got annoyed by this thing, which is a really big deal because it is very, very loud. And on a very similar topic, the LEDs that it's got going around, there are 8 of them, and they look wonderful. They are bright and they are beautiful, and this kind of blue covering really helps to portray how nice they actually look. It looks like some kind of police truck when you actually turn it on and see the LEDs in person, especially if you have this thing in a dark room. It looks like a light show, and it is just, it's so cool. I love this thing way too much. But arguably, the best feature that it has, better than everything else, is this right here. It's got a big bucket in the back. And you know what that's good for? Putting stuff away. It's not perfect. There are big holes here, so if you put lots of small items, are going to leak out of it. But if you just want to put figures, small spaceships, whatever you were playing around with when you were playing with this thing, you could pretty much put all of the stuff from this line in the bucket at once. I mean, minus the big spaceships, again. But you can put a lot of stuff in the bucket, and it makes it so much easier to clean up when you're done playing with this thing. You don't have to go up and down the stairs all the way back and forth from your bedroom back here to get all the stuff back. You can just put it in the bucket and wheel the thing down the hall. It's so nice. It's always been luxurious to use this thing because I don't have to worry about how am I going to take all this stuff back upstairs. Just up into the bucket or on top of the vehicle, and we just push it. There we go, we're done. I love the Battle Rover way too much. This is a toy that I still think could entertain people for hours, days, weeks, months, years even. It is a toy that you can have way too much fun with as a little kid and still enjoy just as much as an adult. And there just aren't toys like that anymore. Nowadays, it's either a really little kid's thing or it's a collector's item that you get it and you put it on a shelf and it's like boring adult toys. This is something that looks good, feels good, works well, is just enjoyable in general. It's fun, it's goofy, and it does everything it's trying to do pretty well except the hook. They really could have fixed the hook. I cannot get over that. Just fix the freaking hook. But everything else, pretty much everything else that this does is done good. I love this thing so much. If this was still available wholesale, I would still recommend it, even though this product is 10 years old. This was made in 2014, and it's still just as good as it was when it first came out. Again, I've thrown this down the stairs 50 freaking times, and it's never taken any damage besides that one tiny little dingus idiot stuff right there that you don't even notice. That's how dense this thing is. It's durable. It's so good. And at this point, I cannot say this enough. If you find one of these things at a thrift store or on eBay or something, and you see it going for less than $200 or anything around that price point, please do your entire family a favor, snag it. You will enjoy it, your kids will enjoy it, your mom will enjoy it, your dad will enjoy it, everyone will get fun out of this thing. That's how perfect it is. I love the Battle Rover way too much. Thank you guys for watching. Bye!